Alright, with Season 3 of The Witcher just a few days away, I decided to try the books to see if I'd find more enjoyment in the series by looking over the original source material rather than the adaptation. I purchased the complete Witcher series from Amazon, and after Googling and doing a little bit of discussion with people who have read the series, I was told to start by reading the Anthologies, The Last Wish, and The Sword of Destiny, and boy do I have some thoughts on them, so let's get into the review. So, The Witcher is a dark fantasy series written by Polish author, I think I'm saying his name right, Andrzej Sapkowski, and it follows the titular Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, on his seemingly endless journey to gather enough gold to buy bread. As a teacher, I find this painfully relatable. Thankfully, unlike Geralt and all other Witchers, I do not have to become a mutant, outcast from human society, and tasked with ridding the monsters of the world for minimal pay. Essentially, Witchers are these monster hunters, but they are not just normal monster hunters. From the research that I've done to get a little bit more background in the series, but to try to avoid some spoilers, Witchers are mutants. They achieve these mutations through a trial known as the Trial of the Grasses, I believe, that is almost like their final exam from Witcher school. And these mutations include things like superhuman reflexes, superhuman strength, endurance, all of these standard buffs, but also gives them access to something called signs. And it is a softer magic system within the world of The Witcher that allows Witchers to have basic control over magic, such as a calming sign or a pushback sign. And they are used within the Witcher's arsenal, but are not nearly on the level of the hard magic system in the world that is used by the mages. However, this mutation doesn't come without a cost. Obviously, the Trial of the Grasses could kill you, but on top of that, even if you survive, there's a belief on the continent that this Trial of the Grasses removes a Witcher's humanity, making them almost as dangerous as the monsters they hunt. And as a result of that, what will happen is that the Witchers become outcasted from society, with their only source of income being from taking jobs to kill monsters, and from the monsters, sell what they can to magical apothecaries. I found this introduction to the Witcher world very interesting, because while it's not uncommon to have a protagonist that is hated by the world around them, it is interesting to have a protagonist that is hated by the world around them, that even though they hate him, they still use his services. And this creates a very interesting through line, in my opinion, through the anthology stories. In Sapkowski's The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny, we follow Geralt through a series of mini adventures that are somewhat narrowly connected, though is a bit unclear. And in those mini stories, he faces either literal monsters or the monstrous nature of man. And this is a running through line of the series as well, which is just because we classify someone as a monster does not mean that the people that classified them are not monsters themselves. And while I think that The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny are excellent ways to build up a world, or let me say, rather, a unique way to build up a world, I think that this is an idea that definitely worked better on paper than in the show, as I know that when the first season was airing, that was a big source of contention, which is just what is happening. And so I don't know if I would have done it that way if I were the author, but I can't say that I had a 100% difficult time following the stories as they went. It really does require you to look at them as their own mini separate stories and not worry too much about what the connections are to the previous ones. With all that said, though, I want to get into what I really liked and what I didn't like too much about the Witcher series, and then give you my final thoughts. This first like didn't really come as a surprise to me because I liked the way that it worked in the TV show, so the book, just expanding on that, was perfect for me, and that is the main character, Geralt of Rivia. I think that he is perfect for the world that we're exploring. As I read through Sapkowski's anthologies, I noted that subversion of the expected was a running theme throughout the story, and that presented itself in multiple ways. For example, in the story about clearly inspired by Beauty and the Beast, the roles are reversed, where it is the beautiful maiden that is secretly holding the beast captive. He subverts the character of Geralt so beautifully. When you meet Geralt, he is clearly almost like exactly what you would think of a lone wolf, mercenary, swordsman type character. And that thought literally lasts only for the first couple of pages. And you only believe that because that is what the world is telling you to believe. The second you get to know Geralt, you're like, this man is amazing. He is not this brutal, violence-first mercenary that doesn't care about how many lives he takes as long as he gets paid. He is a extremely caring, witty, funny, complex character that I didn't expect when I watched the show, but of course going into the books, I knew a little bit more, and I think that he's just awesome. He's such a interesting perspective to follow in this very dark world. I think a perfect example of that complexity that I was talking about is his Witcher code. So Geralt is obviously most of the time in desperate need of work. He doesn't get paid very much for killing the monsters, and monsters are also slowly fading from the world, so it is tough for him to find work. That being said, he will not kill a monster just because it's a monster. It has to legitimately be causing harm. Now, granted, the king might think those elves are causing me harm because they don't want to give me their forest, but that does not mean Geralt will serve them. Oftentimes, turning down things like to capture a mermaid or, like I said, force elves to retreat. Saying that it's like it is against his Witcher's code, which is something that from the research I've done does not exist. It is just something that Geralt has imposed on itself, and because nobody is going to question the Witcher, he just gets away with not doing the jobs that he wants. But of course, that shows a sacrifice because he did need that money. It's just he won't let money buy his principles. And I think that is such a great inversion of what you expect from someone who looks like they're going to be in the mercenary trope. I'm sure there will be like a lot more than I'll talk about in Geralt and like other Witcher medium if I continue to review it, but overall I really want to emphasize this. Geralt is a fantastic character in my opinion, and easily my favorite in the book. That is a critique we'll get to later, because he was my favorite, but he was a shining white rose in a garden of manure. Another thing that I liked is the writing style and voice of these novels. I found Sapkowski to be a very compelling storyteller, and I read The Witcher through two mediums. When I had the time, I would obviously read the physical copy, and when I was commuting to work and back or to the gym and back, I would listen to the audiobook, both of which I felt like I was sitting by a campfire listening to someone tell me a really compelling story. His descriptions are very vivid and clear, but it really shines. Sapkowski's writing style really shines when describing a battle. I don't know how he does it. I would love to learn because, as you all know, I'm writing a book, but the way that he can make you just feel those swords clanging or those arrows whooshing by your head, it really makes those sections pick up and you just don't want to put it down. I really enjoyed it, his writing style, and I think that is, amazing given the fact that it is a translated work, and I don't know how much got lost in translation, but if something did get lost in translation, I think it was still okay. Things that might stop me from enjoying the series in the future, though, is that if this trend of the chronology being out of order continues. Now, I am okay with split chronologies. For example, The Enigma of Room 622, where I'm trying to get a review out of that soon, it's just a very big book, it takes place through two timelines. We follow one timeline and we follow another timeline, and they will eventually intertwine. But the thing is that each of those timelines move in chronological order. For an anthology, I'm a little bit more forgiving of the way that the timelines work. For example, the way that it'll work in The Last Wish or The Sword of Destiny, Geralt meets a character, we learn a little bit of a story about how he met that character, and we move on. If that trend continues, though, into The Blood of Elves, I'm going to have a hard time. I don't know why. I understand it's an art style. I understand that it's difficult to write, and people very much appreciate that mosaic style of art in writing, but I find it a little bit too difficult to follow. And maybe that makes me a simple reader. I hope not. I hope that's just a taste thing, but I don't love it too much. But that is one of my critiques, is I'm hoping for more chronology and order within the series proper moving forward. The other critique that I have, and this one might take me a while, but those characters we meet, sometimes it is more of a tragedy that we had to meet them than a pleasure to learn about them. And I'll tell you what. Now, there are characters that are intentionally written to be horrific. But I don't know if that is what Sapkowski intended with two of his other main characters. Now I want to start with one because he's the one that I'm more split on at the moment, and that is Dandelion. There are times where Dandelion is so funny and so enjoyable to see on page, and his antics are great, and I still think about that scene where the woman from the roof from her story is throwing clothes at him, throwing things out of the window because he lied about who he was and being single and loving her, and she's upset. And there are other times where I'll read Dandelion and he makes me question the sanity of human beings. For example, if you knew a quest was dangerous, Geralt told you it was dangerous, why would you put yourself in that situation knowing you're worthless in any form of combat? There were times in the story that if I heard him yell Geralt's name one more time, I would have told Geralt, take your sword out, cut his head off, keep it moving. It ain't worth it. He is not useful. That is not to say that he does not have his own charms. Of course, there's a story about the two bards. There's a story with the two bards that he's very impactful. He helps Geralt deal with a lot of his humanity, and in that way, I respect it. But I wish that Sapkowski was a little bit more seasoned Dandelion into the food of the Witcher a little more gradually than heavy-handedly. I'll say it like that. Here's where I'm going to get a lot of flack, okay? And I have been told by friends who have read the series that this character does get better, and God, do I hope so, because this character sucks. All right, and that is, as you can probably guess, Yennefer. All right, so where do I even start? She just rubbed me the wrong way. Now, granted, I know specifically with the story of the Djinn and how Geralt and Yennefer are linked through that magic. I don't want to get too spoiler heavy, that there's a lot of like, does she really love her? Does he really love her? And all this stuff. And I get it. But can she please stop toying with my boy Geralt's heart? I can't stand it. He deserves better, and I'll stand on it, okay? He deserves better. And I'm hoping that Yennefer and her character evolves to get better as well. Off the Yennefer hate wagon, there's one last critique that I have, but this is a genre critique. So the story is a grimdark, very like old school gritty type of fantasy, and I've seen a lot of complaints regarding the heavy sexism in this story, and even someone who can put themselves in the headspace of that time period, I can understand it, but I also was beginning to get a little tired of how every girl seemed to fall in love with Geralt from the jump, which is odd because I love Geralt, so I get it, but just 2 days seems to be a little fast. The Witcher series, from what I've read, is certainly a book that really shows, I think, its age, or the age that it wanted to be a part of, and in fairness, it can be a turnoff to readers. So I will say that if you are someone who has this difficulty with the old school medieval sexism of the time, The Witcher doesn't stray away from that. It's very much a part of the story, and take that into consideration when you read it. I mentioned it earlier, but the story of the Djinn and the events that Dandelion and Yennefer wish for are problematic, and it is definitely something within the writing. I think it is designed to be that way. It's designed to make you uncomfortable, but I would say that if those are themes that bother you, The Witcher might not be something that you pick up, and that is okay. So overall, for me, as a fantasy fan, I don't regret picking up The Witcher, and I look forward to sharing my thoughts on the first official entry soon. With that said, keep reading, readers. Peace out. All right, End Card Jared here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It does wonders for a channel that is new and trying to build its way through the algorithm. Now, if you enjoyed this book review and would like to hear more, I have a playlist of book reviews up here. Currently, there's 2, including the one you're watching, but give the other one a shot. If you are interested in something more in the animated realm, I have been reviewing episodes of My Adventure with Superman up here, so please go ahead and give that a try. It would mean a lot to me if you continue to support this channel, and have a great rest of your day.